Hi, I thought I'd tape a quick video on the vocabulary of a circle. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a compass and I'm going to draw a circle. And with this, we talked a lot about it's easier sometimes to move the paper than to move the compass. And the point that I had in the middle here, that ends up being the center of the circle. Okay, and so that's the center of the circle, and we talked a little bit about it. And when I have the center of the circle, if it's on a coordinate plane, the center is going to be HK. Okay, so the coordinates of my center, the X value will be H and the Y value will be K. So the definition of a circle is every point on the circle is equal distance from the center. So it's a set of points that are equal distance from a given center. So the first vocabulary word that we talked about was a line segment that goes from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. And so this is called the radius. Okay, and it's a segment, so a line segment, whose endpoints are the center, so the segment whose endpoints are the center, are center and circle and on circle. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of what a radius is. And then we have another segment that we talked about was a segment that went from the one edge of the circle to another edge of the circle but passed through the center. And this particular segment is the diameter. And this is a segment or a chord, and we'll talk about chord in a second, whose endpoints are on the circle, and goes through the center, Okay. So that gives me the radius and the diameter, and we talked I mentioned the word chord, and we mentioned this in class too. And a chord is a line segment. So a segment again, so this is chord, C-H-O-R-D, and then a segment with endpoints on the circle. Okay. So those are some of the words that we talked about maybe the first day back from the break, but now there's a couple of more vocabulary terms that we need to talk about. And one of those vocabulary words is, now we've gone from all our segments, so we have chord, diameter, radius, to now we're going to talk about some lines. And lines are always continuous and never ending, and that's indicated by the arrows on the edge. And this particular line is called a secant line. And this is a line that intersects the circles twice. Circle twice. Okay. And then another type of line that we need to talk about is called a tangent line. And a tangent line is a line that touches, so it's a line. So this is tangent line that touches or intersects the circle only once. That touches the circle once. Okay, and then this point where it intersects the circle is called the point of tangency. Point of tangency. And that's the intersection of the circle and the tangent line. Circle and tangent line. So this talks about a lot of the chords and all of some of the vocabulary that we need talking about line segments and lines. So moving on from here, there's some things that we can talk about that have to do with the actual circle and the edge of the circle. So first thing, we can define the whole length around the circle as the circumference. And I'm not going to write that definition down. It's a definition that you've been dealing with for many years. And the formula for that is circumference is equal to pi times d, and you can use pi or 3.14, or circumference is equal to 2 pi r, because it takes 2 radii to make a diameter. So sometimes you're given the radius and you just plug it in and you multiply by 2 and then multiply it by pi, or you have the diameter, and so circumference is equal to pi times diameter. And then the area, which is the inside of the circle, the amount of space inside the circle, is pi r squared. And in this situation we talked about in class is that I square the radius first and then multiply by pi. You don't multiply pi times r and then square that value. You square the radius first and then multiply by pi. Okay, so now if I am going to talk about a few more words, we can talk about the part of the circumference from this intersection A to this intersection of point B. And this part of the circle is called an arc. And so an arc is just part of the circumference. Okay? So arc is just a portion of the circumference. Now, there's two different kinds of arcs. There's a minor arc, whose value is less than 180 degrees. So basically less than a semicircle. And there's a major arc that is greater than 180 degrees. Okay? So a greater than, I can describe this major or this minor arc as arc AB, or I can describe the major arc with 3 variables, and I would have to say like A, C, B. And that would indicate that I'm going the other way around the circle. So those are 2 vocabulary words that we have not talked about yet. 2 angle words that we haven't talked about is there's an angle that's called a central angle, and this central angle is an angle whose vertex is the center. Whose vertex is the center. And then we have an inscribed angle whose vertex is on the circle. Vertex is on circle. So in this situation, if I am drawing these, I would identify the center of the circle here, and so a central angle would look like something like this. Okay? And you would be able to measure the value in degrees of that angle. Now, an inscribed angle would look something like this, where the vertex is on the circle, and then the 2 rays intersect the circle. So, and we would be able to describe this also, this angle right here in degrees also. So those are 2 more vocabulary words. And then if you look at your vocabulary that we did in class, internal tangent and internal tangent means it's a tangent line that is tangent to 2 circles, and it would run through an imaginary line connecting the 2 centers. So that is an internal tangent. Or an external tangent would be a tangent line to the 2 circles, and it would not cross an imaginary line going from the centers of the circles, joining the centers of the circles. So those are kind of the vocabulary words that we needed to talk about to get you started.